Hi everyone, it's Eliana and I have another card to share with you today. Today I'm going to be using the Brutus Monroe Rose Garden background stamp. It is slightly smaller than an A2 card front. It's just not as wide, so I'll have to figure out what to do with the card. I didn't have a plan when I started this. I just wanted to color this. So I'm starting off with some Bristol cardstock because I plan to use my Icicle color markers. That's a mouthful. And so using this paper helps the blending quite a bit. So I'm starting off by stamping the image with some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink, and I stamped it a few times just so that I would get a nice deep solid impression. And I'm using the Brutus Monroe Icicle. I am trying out this new Wow 2-speed heat gun, and so it is super hot, so it does work well, just like the Wagner heat gun. Now I am using my thin purple tape. It's not necessary to do this part because you don't add enough water to the paper to warp it, so you can skip this part. So I am starting off using two colors of my Zig markers, and I'm using the wine red, which is 024, and the blender. And I start off just doing each petal on its own, and I get this entire piece done. And when I do my second panel, because I did do multiples of this card, I found a faster, easier way than to keep switching back and forth doing each petal. So I'll add that into this next part of the video. So this is a different panel. So I'm just going to start off by using the gray brown, which is 094, and I'm going to add color everywhere where I feel like there should be a shadow. So I'm not being precise or anything. I'm just going through and I'm just slapping on the color. Once I get all of that colored in, then I'm going to take that same wine red color that I showed you earlier, and I'm just going to go over that gray. And I go a little bit past where I've colored with the gray. Once I get all of that colored in, then I'll take my blender pen and then I'll start spreading the color around. So you can see I'm not being too precise. I'm just kind of putting the color down. This goes so much faster. So now I'm taking that blender pen and I'm just pushing the color around. You don't have to worry about it drying or anything like that because you can go back and reactivate it once you get it all spread out. So don't worry about any marker lines or anything like that, or if the color's not blended well, because you can go back and you can fix all of that when you're done. So you can see I'm just doing this rather quickly. The video is sped up for, just for time purposes, but it's still a fast process. And once I get everything blended together, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to fix anything that I think needs attention. So anywhere where I think there's too much color, I'm going to go spread the color around. And anywhere where I think there should be a highlight, I'm removing the color with the blender pen and then just scribbling it off to the side. If I think it needs more color, then I'll go in and add a little bit more color. But pretty much this was so much faster than trying to color each individual petal by itself. So when you do add the wine color, if you don't go back and you don't add a little bit of the gray, then your petal will be a slightly different color. And you can see that in the first panel that I did earlier. So you do need to go back and add a little bit of gray so that your color will be a little bit more consistent. But if you don't want to do that step, that's fine, because in nature, not everything is identical or the exact same perfect color, so you'll be all good. So once it's all colored out, I am going to trim this panel down. So you can see that once I trim the panel down that it is smaller than an A2 card front, and so I need to figure out how I'm going to put my sentiment on there. So I decide that I'm just going to cut a strip of my panel so that I could put my sentiment in between. And I'm just going to use my cut-a-line to figure this out, and so I've measured it, and now I'm just going to use my craft knife to cut these two pieces apart. I am going over the area a couple of times with my craft knife, and the reason why I'm doing that is so that I don't gouge my craft mat, and it also makes it easier on myself when I do my cutting. So I'm going to line up my pieces just so that I can see what I can put in between. I'm going to use some temporary adhesive to position my cut pieces just so that I can figure out where I want to put my sentiment. And I end up choosing a sentiment from the Avery L Sentimental, and I'm debating between the thanks and the congratulations, and then I just decide I'm going to make one of each, but I'm going to start with the congratulations. I get everything lined up, and I'm sorry, I'm a little bit out of frame here, but I'll fix that in just a second. I'm using this acetate sheet that has grid lines on it. It is available to download for free on my website, and I'll be sure to put the link below. But I'm using that as a way to figure out where I'm going to put the sentiment. And so I know it's straight on there, and so I'm just moving the acetate to where I want it to be. Once I get that straightened out, I'm going to pick up the sentiment with my lead. I'm going to remove the panels so that I don't accidentally stamp on them or get any black ink on them. I am using a creative corner on the left side just so that I'm able to stamp off the edge. And just so that the congratulations matches my colored image, I'm going to add some embossing powder. I'm going to use that same Icicle embossing powder, and I'm going to heat set that with my heat gun as well. I do want to add a little bit of a border on my colored images, and so I'm going to use this Brutus Monroe glitter cardstock. It is charcoal. I'm just going to trim off a little bit so that I don't have to use up a whole panel. And I'm going to stick that with some score tape. The reason why I'm using score tape is because I want it to be a super strong adhesive so that it doesn't come off the glitter paper. Normally when I use my ATG gun, it kind of separates, and so by using a stronger adhesive, I'm able to stick those easily. So I'm just going to let a tiny bit of the glitter show through. I don't want it to overwhelm my card because there's so much going on, and so I'm just letting a tiny bit show through, and I'm going to trim that down. Once I have it all done, I'm going to see if I need to trim any off the top, and I can see that there's too much of the pattern paper, and so I'm just going to trim off that little bit. As you can see, I have totally stuck a sticker on the side of my trimmer, and that's because I like to see measurement on the vertical side, so I did use one of my turquoise stickers on the edge of my trimmer so that I have that. I've adhered my panels with the with some foam tape onto the front of my card base, and now I'm taking that little tiny strip and I'm adding it to the inside of my card. Now that my card is done, I'm going to add a little bit of shimmer using this Ink on 3 Pixie Dust. I just mixed it into a water bottle and I used it to spray. Here is a quick variation of the same card. I used an embossing ink with some Ranger Silver Pearl embossing powder, and I'm just going to use some Distress Oxides to blend my color in. I'm using Picked Raspberry as well as Candied Apple and Barn Door. I'm using my Picket Fence blending brushes. Here are the completed cards. You could see that I made a thank you card, a congratulations card, and then the variation card you'll see in just a second with the Distress Oxides. And I'm pretty happy with how these turned out, so I hope you've enjoyed this video, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and hit that like button. I hope you have a great day.